The year was 1692, and the town of Salem, Massachusetts was in shock. Over 20 people had recently fallen victim to an unknown affliction that caused them to have wild fits, speak strange words, and even behave as if they were specters from hell. In an attempt to discover the source of these troubles, local ministers began questioning everyone with suspicious behavior. And when a few girls pointed fingers at a group of old women known as witches, things got ugly pretty fast. This isn't your average history lesson. This is What Came Up, the history of one of the most famous witch trials in American history. We're breaking down the events that led up to the Salem Witch Trials and their devastating consequences, and so much more. I'm your host, Deej Penhollow. Thanks for listening. This is What Came Up, your podcast about the etymology of everyday things. I'm your host, Deej Penhollow. Let's get started. The root cause of the Salem Witch Trials is still debated by historians today. The most common theory is that the girls who began the witch hunt were reacting to the stress of a particularly harsh winter. As weather got colder, food got scarcer, and the girls were forced to survive on even less than they had been accustomed to. The girls were often very sick, and it is likely that they were suffering from what we know as an eating disorder. The girls' strange behavior would have been diagnosed as a condition known as mass hysteria, which was common in women of childbearing age. It was believed that the mood of a group of girls could get out of control until they were all experiencing the same thing, in this case, hallucinations. And as more girls started making outbursts about the activities of witches, the ministers of Salem took notice. The victims of the Salem Witch Trials were for the most part women who were either elderly or disabled in some way. Historians have determined that around 80% of people arrested and jailed during the trials were women. Most of the victims were also very poor. This was likely not a coincidence, as the wealthier people were more likely to be connected with the ministers and therefore less likely to be accused. As soon as the accusations began, the trials began as well. While each trial was different, most involved the accused standing before judges hearing others describe their strange things that they've been doing and that has been happening around them, and asking the accused to confess. Most of the accused did confess, likely hoping that their confession would spare them from being put to death. Unfortunately, their confessions only confirmed the accusations of witchcraft, and that they were led to the gallows shortly thereafter. The Salem Witch Trials caused so much chaos and bloodshed that it took the Massachusetts government years to recover. The Salem Witch Trials were so devastating that they nearly destroyed the Massachusetts Bay Colony. The colony's leadership was forced to make major policy reforms to regain control. The witch trials are often remembered as one of the worst moments in American history, and they hold significant place in our culture to this day. The Salem Witch Trials were an ugly and unfortunate moment in American history. The trials were caused by unbalanced teenage girls, and they resulted in the execution of over 20 innocent people. Despite its dark past, it's important to remember that Salem has become a major tourist destination, and that the witch trials are a crucial part of its history. The Salem Chamber of Commerce introduced its Haunted Happenings in 1982 as a weekend-long Halloween celebration with events throughout the city. The weekend included a Horribles parade with costumes judged by Laurie Cabot and Witches Brew contest at the Victoria Station. Coinciding with Haunted Happenings, the Essex Institute hosted an exhibit called Salem Witches, Documents of an Early American Drama, which focused on the Salem Witch Trials. The first year was a success, and the series continued to gain momentum each year adding new attractions and partnering with more businesses and organizations across the city. In the 1990s, Haunted Happenings marketing was increased with the hope that Salem's tourism could expand into fall, a usually quiet time in the waterfront community. By the end of the decade, Haunted Happenings had grown from a weekend celebration to one spanning 10 days. In 1992, the tercentenary of the witch trials brought an international spotlight to the city with the dedication of the Salem Witch Trials Memorial. News coverage created a renewed interest in Salem's history and attractions. The first Halloween parade was held in 1995, beginning modestly with costumed school children. The parade signified the city's transition to the family-friendly Halloween events and activities. The parade now acts as the official kickoff of October's festivities. Haunted Happenings now draws approximately 400,000 people annually to Salem. In 2007, the grand fireworks finale was added to mark the end of the month-long celebration. My wife and I just watched videos this morning of a walkthrough of Salem on Halloween night, and it is an astronomical amount of people. It looks like a ripping good time, to be perfectly honest with you. There's a lot going on. Everybody's dressed up. The town is decorated to the hilt. It looks like a Hallmark Christmas movie, but Halloween instead. It's crazy. There you have it. Witches then became a symbol for Halloween. The town of Salem's logo, mascot, is a witch riding a broom in front of the moon. If you're a fan of Halloween, that's definitely a place that should be on your bucket list. I know it's on ours, and I think we're trying to plan a trip to go sometime next year. The Association of Witches of the town of Salem can be seen in the movie Hocus Pocus and Hocus Pocus 2. It's where they take place, appropriately so. All right, thanks for tuning in to this episode of What Came Up. See you next week. What Came Up is a proud member of the Spoilerverse Network. You can find this and other fine shows at www.spoilerverse.com. Thanks for listening, and find out next time what came up.